Hello, good evening. Today I'm going to be talking about life lessons I've learned at 22 and my life journey up until now. I'm going to go through as concisely as I can for each point. I've made sort of sections of about 4 or 5 points that I've got written up in my notes, so we're just going to go through that. But the reason I'm making this video in the first place is to share insights that I've had over the last few months, and I've been ruminating on it for a little while, and I wanted to deliver it in one video that people might resonate with, find something of value in, or even find entertaining perhaps. And I just felt like I have something to say, and going forward that is how I'm going to operate. Just say something when I have something to say, and then peace out when I don't. So starting off then, self-understanding. Something that's been very important to me is knowing who I am. That question can get really deep, and we might discover that or philosophize about that later on. But for now, I want to mention a few things that have helped me, and if anyone looks deeper into themselves using the things I suggest, I think your life can change. At least my life changed dramatically. Dramatically. Wow. English. I haven't spoken English in a little while, so actually that's a lie. I spoke it today during a presentation. Anyway, ocean scores. So there's something called the Big 5 aspect scale. It's a personality scale, or a scale that measures people's personality, right? And it's measured on Big 5 traits, which are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, right? So my scores for this were, I don't know if I should give you the exact numbers. Screw it, I'll just give you the exact numbers. So openness 45, I got conscientiousness 90, I got extroversion 12, and agreeableness 1, and it was neuroticism 64. So I've taken this a few years ago. This was like 3 years ago on Jordan Peterson's understandmyself.com. Less fond of Jordan Peterson now, but the test was a very solid indication of my personality, right? And then before this, I also got an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, where I'm like level 1 ASD, which means I'm very mildly the lightest version you can be, the lightest flavor of autism you can be, on the spectrum. So those are my 2 sort of self-understanding documents that I've used here, and I've used those in combination with AI and asking it questions to really understand my psyche, how I work, how I tick as a human being. It really changes how you live when you customize your environment, your lifestyle in accordance to what works with you, what fits your personality, rather than what goes against it. So for me, I am not the most extroverted person, right? I was trying to make myself social, trying to be social, right? There's a whole trend, or not trend, a societal push on being social, being outgoing, and society in Korea, at least here where I am, favors that drastically. But I was suffering a lot because of the energy burn. One, from just having a conversation with anyone burns me out like hell, so I can only speak to like 2 people a week before I'm starting to tip into the energy reserve in my social battery. And I was just forcing myself to be social. I thought, I have to meet people, do this, do X and Y. I changed that. I decided, I had a week where I pretty much didn't speak to anyone apart from I went to this one event, and I just felt instantly a lot happier. Next, conscientiousness. So I'm quite a hard worker. I got 90 for conscientiousness. That means you almost don't know how to relax. I've recently implemented relaxation on a weekend. I know that's a very scary topic. Yeah. Relaxation on the weekend. Taking time off, not doing anything, having unscheduled time. There's nothing in your calendar. I know, mind-blowing indeed, but it has revelation effects on my well-being. I know how to switch off now. I don't, because the default mindset for someone who is highly conscientious is they don't know how to relax and they want to add things to their relaxation. They'll be like, okay, so what can I do to relax? What do I really need to be doing? What do I need to be adding more? It's like, that's not how it works. Subtraction. I've actually been reading Lao Tzu lately, but his whole idea is subtract, don't add. Take away, rest. So again, using the insight into my conscientiousness to then figure out how to maintain a healthier lifestyle has been brilliant. For things like agreeableness, openness, and neuroticism, to be honest, I haven't really found direct solution or sort of methods to remedy those things. I suppose agreeableness may not need a remedy, but neuroticism, just being healthy and changing my routine has been great for that. I noticed also with tying into autism, doing things at the same time is really awesome. So like waking up at the exact same time, going to bed at the exact same time, that's what like standard health advice is anyway, but also going to the gym at the same time every day, class at the same time every day, having your day like sort of in phases. If you are someone perhaps on the spectrum or with similar personality tendencies, doing stuff in like a robotic sequence, so it's like initiating, waking up, initiating breakfast, initiating going to class, lunch. Living life in that way, it seems very robotic and people would just call it like an NPC, but honestly, like the reduction in suffering and decision fatigue has been maximal to the point where I could not recommend it enough. And I just really, I love my days now. Like the routine, like, okay, I know that about 10 a.m. tomorrow that I'll be at the gym I'm doing cardio at the moment because I'm taking a deload week, but we'll discuss exercise later. And just knowing that's how it's going to be for 7 days a week, maybe 3, 6, 5 days a year, without, as long as it doesn't clash with my obligations, it's just really soothing to someone like me. So basically, I figured out that I am not the typical individual. Apparently my personality is 0.2% of the whole population, or my personality in combination with autism. So it's like, wow, I'm a special snowflake, I guess. I don't know how to frame it. It's strange. It's strange being a 0.2% human, apparently. It's not like I'm special, like, because when you hear 0.2%, you're like, oh wow, am I like freaking Elon Musk or something? It's like, no, it's not 0.2% talent, it's 0.2% rarity in the distribution of all sorts, right? So it's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but acceptance of your difference is key, I think, because forcing yourself to live like someone else in a world where everyone is living in accordance with one societal rhythm, especially in Korea, can only cause friction. It can only cause you to be a triangle being forced to fit into a square hole. And I have now realized I'm a triangle. That just sounds so stupid to say, but yes, I'm a triangle, is what I was trying to say there. So understanding yourself with clear metrics and diagnostics is a game changer. Being on this different path that I'm on also explains why I do not converge with other people. Like I often notice myself in my brain thinking how I should behave, like how can I fit in with the normies and not be seen as as weird or different or outcasted, or what would a normie do in this situation? Okay, how would a normie like make eye contact? I know this is like a very sort of autistic thing, but apparently that's called masking, right? And apparently too much of that drains not your self-worth, but your aura, let's just say, over time. And I'm now free of having to do that. I do not have to do that anymore to exist, because I have accepted that I'm not going to be the most social guy. I might not get along with everybody, but I'll just be kind and do the best that I can in the situation that I find myself in. That ties into present living and just living slowly and being mindful, which I want to tap into, talk about later on in the video, but it's very mind-boggling what just a little bit of acceptance can do. You can take it forward. So I'm just going to look at my notes, see what we've got here. So, okay, I guess I might as well just go on to the mindfulness, the awakening, the spiritual side of things. So recently I posted a video about my spiritual awakening where I talked a little bit about that. I talked about non-duality, which is a fascinating concept if you are unaware. It's ironic because the term non-dual is actually a dualistic term, because the opposite of non-dual would be dual. But if you think of it like in the sense that a triangle might point to something above, or like if you think of it as like an arrow and it's pointing to something over there, or not the term non-dual is like an arrow and it's pointing to something that is not necessarily being able to be put in words. I'm actually reading Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, and the first line, at least in Korean, is Do Ka Do Bi Sang Do, which means the Tao that can be spoken is not the Tao, right? So the thing that can be spoken about is not necessarily a thing. So just skipping over that for now, non-duality is awesome, but what happened after the whole spiritual awakening thing was that I had this like hit of realization, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, everything being one. Wow, the self is not real, everything's just one. I got onto that, and after I recorded that video, I explained my spiritual experience to the camera, and then since then, after about a month of being not fully in like person free, P3 as my dad calls it, not fully out of my body and stuff like that, but just being fairly light and fairly chill, I've sort of returned to ego, or I lost it, is how I like to phrase it. Adyashanti, this spiritual guy who I read a book of called The End of Your World, talked about an abiding awakening versus an unabiding awakening, and the abiding awakening is the one where you feel like, oh, you've lost it, right? But actually, what happened, at least to me, is intellectually I understand that, okay, the self is just an illusion, it's just a hallucination, it's all just a dream. But I haven't fully embodied non-duality, so I haven't fully embodied it to the point where I can always just be aware that ego is appearing, right? Because the awareness is key for everything, just being able to observe, oh, okay, the self is appearing now. And then when you go into a certain situation, oh, okay, I'm in the experiential sort of role self right now, so maybe I'm a teacher, maybe I'm a student, maybe I'm a lawyer, father, whatever the roles are. And being aware of that appearing in consciousness is sort of the stage that I'm at, I suppose, if you want to put it into stages in progression, but I don't really know if that exists. Like, are there really stages to enlightenment? I don't really think so. I actually think enlightenment is just being awake to the present moment, right here and right now, which is in line with Zen Buddhism and the Mahayana Buddhism, which is the one they follow in Korea, which is not in line with Sozen Bugyo, so I don't know how you say that in English, god damn it. Like Theravada Buddhism, the one they do in Thailand, they often talk about different levels of jhana, different levels of sort of enlightenment in stages, like you're going up a staircase, okay, you've got level 1, level 2, level 3, and then you finally get there. I reject that at the moment. My thoughts on enlightenment are, it is just now, here, being awake in the present moment. So, yeah, I'm just at the stage where I am, right, there's no me doing it, but I'm trying to be aware of ego and trying to embody this non-duality after I felt like I've just lost it and come back into myself. I feel like I'm George again, being normal, and I feel less awake throughout my day. I still meditate. I had a little meditation session last week where I saw like really bright white light, and just like the walls were closing in on me for like 10 seconds, and I like snapped out of it. It was really a little bit trippy, but it was awesome. I suppose the conclusion here really is just, meditate, man. But yeah, non-dual awareness, man. Non-dual embodiment. I don't think, again, the trap would be trying to chase that, trying to achieve that, because there's no one to be doing the grasping, if that makes any sense. So that's we'll leave that there for now. But that's that sort of self-understanding in my journey so far. So moving a little bit away from that, getting a little bit more practical or down to earth. I guess the big change for me has been on value clarification. So in the time that I made the video before and where I am now, values have shifted from external more to internal. I'm not fully there yet, but I can see clearly through the illusoriness of chasing things like just money, chasing things like status, wealth for no reason, sex, all sorts of pleasure, like just eating yourself to death, etc., desires. I've seen through the illusion of that, and my monkey brain still likes to value that. It still likes to live in the world of sort of reductionism, cutting things up into pieces, being that's better, that's worse, that's better, that's worse. And I don't think you can truly escape living in a sort of reductionist world, although you can be aware that that is illusory, right? So, on that note, I realised that in life, the whole point of doing things is to do it for the sake of it. For example, this video today, I was feeling a little bit bloated because I just had a huge meal. I would have had a presentation today, I'm tired, etc. I was just like, you know what, screw it. I don't really care about the outcome. I'm just here to enjoy the process now. I'm looking at the lens, I'm having a great time, talking about what the hell I want. People don't really need to listen to this, doesn't matter if they do, but if they do, that's fantastic. I'm just chilling right now. So it's a shift from the I was about to say the Kogwa. The Kogwa is the result to the process. Shifting from I will be happy when X, and I still fall into that chat all the time. Like I was just in the shower, I was like, okay, so next year when I go to Daegu and like do my master's degree, I could do it in Gyeongju, and then Gyeongju is like a really nice place to live, and then if I get this house here and I line it up with a gym, boom, you're already lost in thought and you've just missed the present moment, right? And now, I guess that does stem from external values and conditioning, right? Because when we're born, we're just born as a child, we don't know anything, and then society likes to condition us and go, well, actually, you're a self, actually, you're you, and they tell you who you are, like, no, you're not Jimmy, or Jimmy, that's not like you, don't do that, right? It's just all this conditioning up until now, and most people in the West are conditioned to believe that they are just this little bag of something just wrapped up in skin in their body, and that's all they are. They're just like a commander in their brain. It is quite fascinating when you ask yourself, like, well, who are you really? What is the self you're talking about here? And I don't really know what the common answer is, but people be like, well, I'm me, aren't I? Okay, yeah, well, what do you mean by I'm me, really? And then they'd be like, well, I'm me, I'm in my head. And it's like, what, so is the guy in your head just driving the machine? It's like, well, no. So you could pick apart at that. I've sort of drifted away from the values segment here, but yeah, long story short, external values kind of whack, kind of can't help but chasing them in some sense. But if you are aware that they are illusory, then I think that solves a bit of the tension. I still struggle with it a fair bit, but I'm waking up to the idea that, yeah, chasing money is kind of illusory. So when I chase money, do it knowing that there's no need to get caught up in it. There's no need to get obsessed, right? It's not that you shouldn't chase external things. It's that your values should shift to the internal, to the process, to doing it for the sake of it, for the enjoyment of it, and letting the sort of the fruits of your labor pay off. But the getting the fruit, getting the carrot is not the objective. It's sort of, you do it for the sake of it without getting caught up, right? So it's fine to earn a lot of money, but it's not fine to necessarily let that fill the void within you, let that be your sole purpose in life, your sole thing you're grasping for. Because grasping, in a world where we are all going to die and everything is fleeting, grasping for anything will not last. So, something to bear in mind. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the next point. So yeah, I joined a Buddhist circle, a Buddhist club, the one at my Christian school. So my university is actually a Jesuit university. Okay, I just doxed where my university is in Korea, but whatever. And surprisingly, they have a Buddhist club. So I've been joining that, going along to that, since I made my last video, so maybe like 5 months ago. Been fantastic. I've been able to have conversations with monks and Sunim, and spoken about all sorts of things. It was quite funny actually. I remember going to the first meeting and we went to the Dharma talk. That's what it's called. It's like sort of like a church service if you're familiar with Christianity. Except there's less hallelujah. I went to the place, temple, sat down, and they asked me, okay, so what were you guys doing here? Oh, how did you get interested? It's like, oh, Joy, how did you get interested in Buddhism? And I told the story of the one I told in the last video of me having like spiritual awakening and seeing all this crazy stuff. I was like, yeah, man, I was just sat down in meditation and like I saw this crazy stuff, and then she was like, oh, okay, so what do you? And then she just just kind of responded so plainly, like nothing had happened. I just thought it was really hilarious because everyone else was sort of sat there like, is this guy like high or something? What is he talking about? Just like, yeah, I get it. And then she basically, after a bit of back and forth, she said, the whole idea of it is just to keep that sort of state, that lightness, when you're doing your dishes, when you're doing your day-to-day tasks, just chilling, having a good time. I was like, okay, that was a strange conclusion. I didn't expect that. I thought she was going to tell me, oh, but you need to like, not meditate more, but I guess, it means all this cosmic significance thing. She was just like, no, just stay awake while you're doing the dishes. Like, something just very strange. Did not expect that. I don't know. Anywho, I also met someone from that Buddhist club. So yeah, I was sat at the bus stop one time, right? And then this girl who I had been, I saw her a few times at the club, and she was like quite chatty. I was like, oh, okay, hi. And then we sat on the bus, right? She happened to be taking the same bus as me, and we were just talking. And then she goes and turns to me. This is in Korean. Oh yeah, so this might be the last time I ever see you. So like, good luck, like see you when you go home. I'm like, whoa, no one has ever told me that in any language, let alone just someone I met at the Buddhist club. And it just was such a weird moment, bro. I was getting off the bus, just thinking like, wow, like I could never see her again. I could just die like straight up when I get off this bus. And I don't know, that just did something to me in my head. Later on, I don't know if I don't really want to call it a date because I wasn't really that interested, but I ended up like seeing her again, and she was like very artsy, nice person, fantastic individual, but just ended up not being for me, so I didn't really pursue that. But just very strange benefit of going to a Buddhist club. So if you're in Korea, maybe do that. Also, I went to like several events in the Buddhist club, and I've seen all sorts of different landmarks in Seoul and stuff. But honestly, I think the biggest the biggest benefit of doing a Buddhist club is meeting other like-minded people, and it's just so much more peaceful in a temple than it is in a church. I've never been, I have been to a church, but I've never been a devout Christian, or I've not really been a religious person in my life. But I just find the nature of church to be very forced. Like you almost, when you're singing the hymns, it's like, come on, buddy, like you better sing the hymn. Whereas in the temple, it's so much more relaxed. You still do, like, there are still like chants you sing, but it's not like, there's no forceful nature to it. There's no moral judgment. People who aren't Buddhists are allowed to attend. People who are Christians even attend. I went to one meeting once, and there was this like Christian lady who tried to like get me into a cult, I think, and she was like telling me, oh yeah, come to my house, you can eat all you want. I'm like, yeah. I ended up giving her my phone number because I was stuck. I just couldn't really say no. I was like, alright, shit, I guess I'll just give this random lady my number and hope my organs stay intact. Luckily they still are, and that was like a month ago, so hallelujah. But I digress. I think I'm waffling a little bit, so I'll just close up this section on values and clarification. But ultimately what I'm getting at here is that I'm beginning to see life through the lens of impermanence, of no self, of less identification with the external, what's out there, and more focus on the inside, on inner peace, as people might say. yeah, so we'll transition slowly into my current state of life. So I already spoke about my personality, right? Just to recap, I am not very extroverted, not very agreeable, highly conscientious, moderately high in neuroticism, so I worry a little bit. And I have autism as well, level 1, which I take that all day. And having this temperament, having this personality being inhabited in this body, I don't know. It's a strange life because you don't understand your peers in the same way that perhaps neurotypical people do. So, an example of like, I was in this programming class a while ago, and I just see these girls who just turn up, and they all they talk about is just drama, just trends on social media. They wear the same like inhyung, what's an inhyung in English? Like a pup, I was gonna say, like a dolls on their bags. Like there's this trend in Korea where people put like plushy dolls on their bags, and it's just everyone looks the same. It's like women's fashion is just, I can conform faster than you. That's what it's become apparently. But that's me being very critical here. But what I'm trying to say is that I don't actually logically understand the need to belong to a group, right? I think most normal people, they socialize, right? Even socializing is something they enjoy. In groups, by belonging to something, like you might all have a Chelsea shirt, or you might all have a Sogang, I just doxed my university, blazer or jumper, and that's, you bond over being in the same group, whereas I just do not feel that in any real sense at all. The Buddhist club, yes, but I was only going for me, and I don't really feel connected to the people in the sense that, oh, they're just Buddhists. I just happen to meet people one-on-one and we connect. I don't feel part of something. I don't feel the need to feel part of something, if that makes sense. And so that's probably like quite a big distinction. You get burnt out from social interactions, and even calls as well. Calls with my family, as much as I love them, drain me quite significantly. Like an hour phone call is almost like 1 unit of social interaction for a normal person, or just for anyone. And I think my units of social interaction per week are drastically less than the average extroverted individual, which, as you can see, doesn't fit general socializing culture. So it's just been navigating truths like that, I guess. The agreeableness thing, I've never noticed it, but I've had people tell me frequently that, oh, you said that really bluntly, or they don't tell me directly to my face, probably because they're too agreeable. But I have heard a few times that I'm quite blunt and quite callous with my words, even though I feel like I'm a nice person or being fairly nice. It's just, I want to tell people the truth. I do not like to lie and sugarcoat. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you, there's this friend of mine who's recently sort of semi-converting to Christianity, and I'm just giving him all this like atheist talk about like, no, that's not true. I'm not going to make the whole atheist argument in this video, but it does seem to me that religion generally could be quite a negative force for society because it locks you into a philosophy and worldview, particularly one of the Iron Age, which has not been updated. I won't get into the details, but yeah, the Bible, it talks about slavery, it talks about women in different lights than we would do in the modern age. I just think that needs to be updated, whereas fundamentalists, religious believers are not really on the same page with that. So I'll probably leave that there, and I might come back to the whole atheist/religion thing, because I am exploring Buddhism, which is a religion sort of no religion really. But I don't subscribe. Like, gun to my head, I'm a Buddhist, but I don't like to identify with that. I don't really like to identify as an identity of anything. Like, I have this whole narrative about me and myself, and I've just told you all of this narrative as if it's me and that's my identity, but I'm just describing it now since I'm here in the role of making a YouTube video, if that makes sense. Like, when I'm out of this role, I'm trying to not identify with any sort of story, because I ultimately know that the self is just a story, it's just an illusion, and that's where I like to rest my case with that one anyway. Goodness me, I really, wow. So that was like personality and temperament, and then where I'm standing now in terms of sort of the bigger picture of life, like what are my, sort of what are my goals, or where am I progressing? I firstly let go of all of this self-improvement grind. I used to be on that, like cold showers, no fap, what's the other one? Meditation, I do that anyway. Going to the gym, doing all this stuff, studying, great. All of that is great, you know. But self-improvement does not make sense to me anymore, as I've shifted towards internal values. And I'll tell you why. Because the self that needs improving, the self you're trying to improve, is the one that needs improving. Let's say that again. The self you're trying to improve is the one that needs improving, right? You can't pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, because do you see what I mean? You cannot fix yourself if the self is the thing that needs fixing, right? So it's like, catch-22. But there's a huge wave of self-improvement culture on the internet, particularly on YouTube, telling young men that they need to do all these strange habits and then they will be successful. And then that will make them a full human being. I reject that notion. I do not reject doing things that are beneficial to you, that are seemingly good for you, whether you know that to be the case or not. I still go to the gym, I still meditate, but I've let go of the outcome of needing it to improve me, as I am already whole and you are already whole. I think self-improvement really just undermines, well, one, the whole point of it, right? Because you're doing it to be whole, but you already are whole. That's strange. But I think it's just exploiting young men and their desire to be better in the world, which is not necessarily a bad desire, but it shouldn't be for anything. It shouldn't be for a final result, right? And I really am skeptical of knowing what is right or wrong for us, right? How do you really know that becoming someone who's very rich or with high status or like super jacked or whatever your choice on the menu is, how do you know that's going to be good for you long term? You might become rich, but then you become isolated from your friends and family, and you're more prone to having that money being stolen from you, being attacked on cybercrime, etc. You just don't know the outcome of that, right? Maybe on like a smaller scale, why you don't know the outcome of you going to X major in university or Y major in university. You just don't know which one is better or worse for you. So how can you go around, deluding yourself that you really know anything at all, because you just don't know whether A, B, or C is really going to be the best thing for you. Yes, there are perhaps some things that are hard that almost definitely won't be good for you, like heroin, for example. But it does seem to me that it's a lot harder to understand what's good for us. So this whole notion of self-improvement, what's the end goal really look like there? And how do you know that's really what you truly want? I think most people dream of like woman, like multiple women, or like a really attractive or compatible partner, like jacked physique, lots of money, I think, and then like clear mind, I think, sort of self-education, maybe those are like the pillars of self-improvement, I don't know. But maxing out on all of those, one, that's all external, well, mostly external. And how do you know that's really what you want? Like, what are you going to do after that? Once you have all the money, what the hell are you going to do with it? How are you going to spend it? I feel like it has a good sentiment in some sense, but also it's very toxic because it hasn't really thought out its position, is what I'm trying to say. Anywho, so I've accepted my introversion and my willingness to embrace who I am and further myself from the self-improvement culture that was being pushed on me, or I was perhaps actively seeking but was the current trend of the time. So right now, this is going to sound a little bit counterintuitive, I am or contradictory rather. I'm prioritizing fitness, meditation, and self-education, whilst recognizing that if I cling to it, if I obsess to it, that will not make me happy. And I'm trying to enjoy the process as much as I can. With the fitness thing, well, I'll get into progress on those in a little bit, but just on top of that as well, I am recording these videos as a sort of signal update, state of mind update, consciousness coming at you. Because I would like to send out a signal to people who are similar to me. I mentioned earlier that I'm a very unique individual in my personality, my temperament. If there is anyone out there who is on the same wavelength, I would be best off to send a signal to them via the internet where they can tune into the signal and perhaps see that there is another like-minded individual out there. However, whether this is successful or not is beyond the point, because I'm just here to do what I'm doing now, but it's something, right? And I personally disagree with the direction that general social media is going, and I prefer YouTube as a longer form platform, because I think long form content is what really allows the creator to connect with the viewer and the person to send out the frequency to connect with people in a more meaningful way. Like, for example, if I just did like a 60-second TikTok short or whatever, it's not really going to send out a signal to anyone and leave a lasting impact. Whereas if I do videos like these, maybe it clicks with someone, and who knows, maybe I make another friend or something, or change someone's life. And if I don't, that's whatever. I still have fun making the video, right? So that's that basically. So now I'm gonna get into Korean progress. Oh my god, I haven't made a video about this in a year or so, and that is what has been the main driver of me making these videos up until now. I was just sharing how I learned Korean, how to learn Korean for you, my progress, my Anki cards, my immersion, my level. So I'll talk a little bit about that just for any OGs who are still watching what we like 37 minutes in. Good God, God bless your soul. Although I don't believe in it, or well, not really. Reading speed for Korean. Right now I'm reading books that are related, like novels. I'm reading the Tao Te Ching in Korean, and I'm reading it at a relatively comfortable pace. I have about 2 unknown words per page. I have now recently implemented output writing in Korean after like 4 or 5 years of doing this. I mean, I already text people, which kind of counts as output, but I've just been, writing away lately of about 200 or so words, and then using AI to give me some feedback, see where I'm going. I asked it to compare it to what do you think a native would sound like, and it gave me a 7 out of 10, so I'll take that, because my English was also a 7 out of 10, would you believe? So, not to toot my own trumpet, but I think that's a pretty decent achievement over the many years that I've been invested in learning the language in Korean. My current sort of strengths, I suppose, are reading, understanding, most definitely. The weaknesses, as they always are output, but I would also say for the weaknesses, philosophical stuff, like very deeply philosophical stuff, I think I struggle with a little bit. Things like poetry, there's sometimes I'm missing the nuance there, and then dialects, but usually it's always listening that I screw up with, or I find hard, whereas when it's written down on paper, like 9 times out of 10 I know what it means, unless I'm reading a book like like the Tao Te Ching, where it has some ancient word and I don't really know, or just a very obscure word that I am unaware of. Like a recent word I learned, for example, was called 현모하다, which means sort of mysterious, I suppose. But it's not something that natives use in day-to-day speech, so again, that's just like a small nitpick, I suppose. But yeah, plans for sort of the long term are, I just want to maintain at the moment. If I make gains, that would be fantastic. I just want to keep my Korean going whilst also improve my English at the same time. So currently I'm doing it 50-50. I'm reading a book in English and then a book in Korean and a book in English, a book in Korean, and writing Korean, and just doing it like that on repeat. And hopefully over the long term that will give me results in both languages. But I'm just enjoying the process for now. I'm considering staying in Korea longer term because the UK, I can't comment too much, but it's looking like a bit of a shambles at the moment. And so I think that staying put in Korea perhaps is better for me. I have plans of doing a master's degree and I will likely do it outside of Seoul, although that could change and I don't have to make that decision until from like a year from now. So I'm sort of in two minds about that at the moment in terms of my goals with that. And Korean ultimately to me is a tool rather than sort of like a language I'm learning. I no longer feel like I'm a studier of Korean who just has to do his Anki cards and get the reps in and improve this way. It's just something I use day to day. Like I might ask something to AI in Korean. I might speak to someone at university in Korean. The lecture was going on today. I was listening to a Python lecture, required class. Didn't really want to listen to it. In Korean, it's just like, oh yeah, this is in Korean. Yeah, damn, wow, sheesh. Like, it's not like 100% on the level of English. Like, because when I use English, I feel that I'm at like level 100 or 100 points. Whereas I feel like with Korean, I'm at like 80 or 90 points because there's like a little mental tax of like cognitive processing, which I feel like I don't have in my native language, but I heard that's normal for anyone who's acquired an L2 to a high level. So what the hell, I'm just gonna live with that and just make any gains that I can. But I won't say I'm proud, I don't really feel proud, but I guess I'm glad that I've come this far and I'm glad that I chose to learn Korean and live the life that I'm living, man. So, moving on to the next section. This is section 4 out of 6. Life lessons at 22, right? So these are the things that I wanted to just drill down into. Now we're getting sort of more into the nitty-gritty philosophical stuff. Not that it wasn't philosophical already. Acceptance. So acceptance is the core life skill. What I've just been trying to drill down in the last 40 minutes or so is that when I accepted who I was, at least in the egoic sense, or the mind and body sense here, that is when I saw the most reduction in suffering, the most being able to go with the flow, being able to drop back into the moment. Denial and running away from any problem is never going to solve it. I am quite prone to this. I withdraw quite a lot. At least as my default strategy. But I find that at the end of the day, all you can really do is accept it. Like for example, we are going to die. Do you run away from that? Do you just withdraw? Or do you just go, okay, shit, I am going to die one day. So will everyone I lay my eyes on, everyone I love and everything. Okay, I guess I'll accept that then and do what I can with that information rather than denying it. Rather than denying that it's a problem, maybe over-consuming, falling down into pathways that are just a net negative for everybody. So acceptance is something that I've been thinking about lately, and I think it's worth considering if you're the sort of person to watch this video. The second thing I learned for 22 was that normie advice doesn't really apply to me. I touched upon it earlier. But yeah, I'm not normal really. TLDR, like sheesh, I'm not on that normie wavelength. I still do some things that are kind of normie, like I go to the gym, which is kind of mainstream. But I don't use social media. I generally like to be alone. I like to just focus on my special interests, which seem to be Korean, Buddhism, meditation, the gym a little bit at the moment. Just also like language has been my thing, but I get very obsessive and I notice I'm a systems thinker. So even when I think about relationships, I think about, okay, well if I do this thing here, well how will that affect that there? And if I do that in a certain scenario, will people like me? It's just like crap like that, which I always find myself laughing at. Like I even think, okay, well if this person has said this at that time, then logically I can intervene here. I'm waffling now, but essentially I'm not the average person, so why would I try and live like the average person? why, going against the grain is in my nature. So I just have to, one, accept that, and then two, try to live a unique life without causing chaos, crashes with other people. I'm trying to keep the harmony the best I can, although I'm very disagreeable because I got a 1 out of 100. Imagine getting 1 out of 100. Like, that is, what do you tell to people? Like, I got 1 out of 100 for compassion. I'm sorry, I just don't feel that. But the third lesson for me was that awakening cannot be forced. It's not something that you attain, right? If awakening is being here in the present moment, then how do you achieve that, really? You don't, because there's no you to achieve it, man. Don't try and force awakening. Don't try and chase if you're someone who's on the spiritual path. Just be aware, man. I know even me, I find it hard sometimes, but that's all you can do. There's nothing to cling to. There's nothing there to grab. Everything is actually okay, but it's our thoughts that make things, or they dial up the suffering, or lower it if you're less identified with thoughts. So I actually noticed this today. Like, I laid down on my bed, I was like, oh God, I gotta make dinner, I gotta make this video. Then it just suddenly occurred to me, like, oh yeah, I'm thinking. God damn it, I'm thinking. That's just a thought, and that's not even real. And then bam, you're just in the moment, sat there, and there's like ball of awareness where you can't even see your head. You could just like look down and see your nose and stuff, and oh, it's okay. That is what you want, but you don't chase. You just observe. In the past few months, I noticed that I was clinging to the awakening experience I had, and I thought that I need to get back to that sort of high, or I need to get back to that moment where everything was all just one, man. But from what I've heard through my own research, meaning I don't really know much, is that awakening sort of stabilizes, and it doesn't come as like a lightning strike after you have it. It is just that quietness in the present moment, which is sort of like what I'm trying to find, but it's more like I'm just trying to begin again into, just drop back into. So I suppose being aware is the core sentiment I'm trying to convey. The fourth thing that I learned at 22 was consensus does not equal truth. So I kind of avoided this with the religious talk earlier and how I'm anti-religion. If a few billion people say something's true, that does not necessarily mean it is true for you, especially if you are someone with a very strange personality. The truth, capital T truth, in my opinion, does not exist. Like, if you ask, what's the true position of the sun? Well, it depends on where you're looking at it from. It's like, if you're from Mars, it might be there, but from Earth, it's there. But in this whole universe, what's the true position? Well, it's all in relation to everything else. So how can there be a capital T truth for anything? Because everything is in relation with another. Like me in this room right now, if you were to just see me, right? There's no background, you just saw me, like just like this head or something like that. Well, there would be no me in the room, it would just be this stuff, right? So in that same sense, I don't understand how there can be an absolute truth. And just going against the grain, at least for me and how I tick, just seems like the right thing to do. And this isn't necessarily a debate on conformity and going against the grain per se, but it's being aware that the consensus does not always mean the truth. I read 1984 by George Orwell, and it pretty much shows that the main character essentially gets consumed by conformity, and there's not really much you can do about it. Like, you can't really escape the matrix fully. You can escape it mentally and know that you're in the maze. And I think that's probably the level that I say I would like to get to. But like that, once you know that, then I really think you're free. I mean, you already are free. I'm already free in this moment right now. I just forgot about it. So yeah, just wake up, wait in the maze, man. The fifth thing is that ideological extremism destroys life. So I was big into privacy, or online privacy, digital security, that sort of thing. I was using Graphene OS on my phone. I had Linux. I unplugged the Wi-Fi router from my home, and I was very like, yeah, man, they're watching us, man. Surveillance is real, and it is real. They are harvesting your data, and there's nothing we can really do about it. And there's no longer term effect that is really important unless you are a high target individual to the government. For example, if you were living in China or North Korea, let's say, and you had something to say about the government, yeah, you probably want to like get hard on privacy, make sure your phone's encrypted, because the feds are going to do some nasty things to you if they find out what we're saying about them politically. But for the average individual in the West or in Korea, the fact that Google and Facebook are harvesting my data and using ads or using that to show me personalized targeted ads doesn't really make a difference to my life. Maybe it alters my consumption habits a little bit, but if I'm conscious of it, I think I can mitigate most of the effects. And I think there's a real downside to being the privacy guy, because you really get isolated from one, how normal people think, but less that is more, you just get isolated from being able to interact with people in a common way. And I don't mean talking about the same shows, I mean just not being the weirdo, not having to bring up, but don't you know, like, they're watching you, man. That was me for a very long time, and I'm glad I got out of the extremism before it consumed me, because many great men in history who are otherwise perfectly, psychologically healthy or just intelligent have lost their lives to extremism, like even terrorism and things like this. So, terrorism starts from ideological extremism. So, yes, I'm now out of the digital privacy space. I'm using Windows again. I know, cringe. It's not that Linux is bad in itself, but it's just that locking into an extreme way of operating in the world does not necessarily produce healthy outcomes, at least for me. So that was lesson 5, I think. Number 6 was that non-dual insight can dissolve religious conflict. So I said I wanted to avoid the religious argument here, but I'll tune in a little bit more and say that basically my view at the moment is I think that the Christians don't really know that God, Jesus, and the self are actually not separate things, and that God, the way they talk about it, has both good and bad, both light and dark. The non-duality of things, meaning there is no other, there is just one, often, or at least in my opinion, would solve this debate of good having to beat evil, and there having to be justice, and there having to be a concrete heaven and hell. I just look. I'm really trying to I'm sort of trying to censor at the moment, because I need to figure out how to frame this argument in a way that doesn't upset people, although I've probably offended all the Christians watching this anyway. I just think that if Christians knew, or even like Muslims or people who believe in the Abrahamic God in general, were aware of the non-dual nature of things, I think there would be less fighting, and I think there would be less argument, and they would realize who God really is and wake up to that fact. So yeah, and I don't believe in capital G God. I'm just keep it G, keep it gangster. And I'm going to move on to the next point, because I still am in a few minds about how I like to express that argument online. So okay, now we're getting into just more fun. This is like the most normie lesson. Like this, wow, is lesson number 7. Are we on 7? I can't remember the count, but yeah, 7. Love cannot be forced. I had a girlfriend in the time that I made my last video. I know, drama. I probably should have put this in the beginning to like maximize views on all the normies who love all this drama shit. But I had a girlfriend. We dated for a while, like a few months, 2-3 months, and I broke up with her. And I'm not gonna give the full story, but like I met her online first, and then we met in went to a cafe, talk. I was speaking English to her, and then I sort of switched to Korean, like spoke a few words in Korean. She's like, oh my god, like you speak such good Korean, like what the hell? And then, bam, that was my way in, we went to do yoga. Like, God, I'm talking about this. This is my ex-girlfriend, bro. I don't want to be talking about this on camera that much. But yeah, basically, long story short, we ended up dating. By date 5, I flew out to go and see her in Indonesia, in Bali, because she was already planning to go on holiday. I was like, well, shit, I guess I got to shoot my shot and go with her. That was all great until it wasn't, because I found her very demanding. I found her, she's a wonderful person, but she has a lot of needs. She's quite an anxious person. She's like an independent woman. She had her own business and things like this, and I was amazed by that. But I also realized that snap, I need someone who's low maintenance. I cannot deal with drama. I cannot deal with extroverted women. Like, snap, if I knew about my personality before this, I probably wouldn't have gone down that road. It's hard for me to be very honest and transparent because it's quite a personal thing, and I don't want to say things about another individual where, they might watch this video, or I don't know, maybe I don't know how good the English is anymore, but you know what I'm saying. It's a tricky subject. So what if I just shift away from the story? Like, long story short, okay, I went to Indonesia, sort of broke up with her out there because I just really wasn't feeling it after like 5 days. It was like, snap, I just can't be in it. So I flew home to Korea after 3 days, and I just realized as well, there's so much mental suffering that you can occur just over love, like over just being in a relationship with a woman, Like, damn, I was suffering bad. I don't think I've actually been like that down bad for a long time. And I was just there on the balcony in this Indonesian apartment, some hotel place. I just sat there on the balcony like, shit, I was really at rock bottom. And it's just so crazy because nothing had actually happened. It was all just me internally being like, damn, I need to break up. Damn, I need to break up with her. Damn, I need to break up with her. It's funny because I knew that I would be fine after I broke up with her. Like, I knew that I'd feel happier for it, and then I did it. It was awful, as it always is. And then I ended up getting back together with her. So I flew back to Korea 3 days after, and then she called me up and was like, "How are you doing?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Do you want to like carry on seeing each other?" She was like, "Oh," and then I ended up seeing her again in Korea, and then we met for like another month, and I still really wasn't feeling it. I thought it was just Indonesia. I thought it was just Bali that screwed me up because it's very, there's motorbikes. It's like, oh, it's killing my sensory overload. Oh, it's very extroverted. And she wanted to like go out and do stuff. And I thought that was what it was. Just in the same room with her all the time. And yeah, shit happened. I won't speak too much more. You probably already know what I'm saying. And I thought it was that. I thought it was just the environment. But it wasn't the environment. It was just me and her not being compatible. So now, what am I looking for in a long-term partner? I know this is very kind of cringe, like, I need someone who is independent, someone who is ideally more like introverted than extroverted, who like doesn't want to go out and do stuff all the time. I don't think I can live with another human being. I've realized that lately. Like, sheesh, I do not do well with roommates or other people. I just have to live alone. I just can't do the whole roommate thing, especially living with a woman. Okay, that was depends on the woman, but I just don't think I'm gonna be able to live with a woman. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a compromise. Like, if I have kids, like you kind of gotta live together. So yeah, independent, extrovert, not extrovert. Good God, introvert, and is able to live separate, and maybe just something like lower neuroticism, like not super anxious. I know I'm sort of moderate to high, but it would be nice to meet a woman who was, less sort of demanding, had like ideally like no fetishes and like shit like that. This is weird. This is a weird segment of the video. That's what I can say. Yep. So that's what I'm going to talk about for the partner situation. Okay, I will add one thing that I also noticed, that initial attraction is great, but compatibility is kind of king in the long run. So when I go about selecting a woman next time, obviously I'll filter for attraction first. Like, if you're a guy, 90% of all we care about is the looks anyway, right? But after that, yeah, are they interested in similar things to me? Are they compatible? Is probably more important. Just a random line that she said to me before was that she thinks I would be a good meditation instructor, and that leads us on to the next segment of my plans going forward. So right now, I'm planning on potentially moving to Gyeongju for graduate school, doing a program in meditation and psychology. Now, this is a year in advance. This is just future planning. This could all change, but I want to do a low load program where I can also potentially work on the side, and I want to do it in something that I love and I'm passionate about. And I'm thinking, well, what the hell am I passionate about today? Oh yeah, it's like spirituality, non-duality, man. Buddhism, bro. I always talk about all this spiritual stuff now, or actually I don't really talk about it openly, but I always have something to say about it, and don't tell anyone. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that I'm doing this next step, this master's, 1, to stay in Korea, 2, to switch to a course that is potentially lower load and better fit for me, because right now I'm doing a media course where there's group projects everywhere, and I struggle a lot with the stress of it. I'm doing okay, but it's not for me, basically. Gyeongju, really awesome place. I've been there before. Living outside of Seoul is something I wanted to try, and also something that would probably be like almost comically aligned with my personality. I told you that I'm just that introvert. I would be a monk or like a philosopher if I was born 500 years ago, but because of the modern age, that is not such a common thing anymore. And I view myself, well, I try not to identify with thoughts too much, but in the context of this video, I like to view myself as just like a monk with Wi-Fi, as someone who would have been a philosopher but just decided to live in the modern world. And I believe that the country life for me would be fantastic. I actually came from the country in the UK, and when I visit the UK and I live in the countryside, I'm like, wow, this nature is fantastic. Everyone's just living a lot slower, sort of more in line with internal values rather than external values that are very hardly pushed onto us in the city, especially in an elite university in South Korea. What more of a external value perpetuating environment could you want than that? I mean, gosh, like maybe Hollywood or Las Vegas or something like that, but yeah, it's rough. So, well, it's not rough actually, I just make it rough, but with my thoughts. But anywho, graduate school, Gyeongju, that's the plan. That's the plan stand right now. Maybe become a meditation instructor or teach English on the side, or just do something adjacent in that field. I'm thinking of like a research assistant would be really cool, even working in the library, just having some chill desk job, get my money to pay the bills and with my low expenses and cheap living in Gyeongju, and that would just be an awesome country living, good vibes, good life. That's what I feel is sort of my destiny at the moment. I've let go, like I said, of striving for all these grandiose plans. I'm just chipping away at, the gym, reading, Korean, meditation, and seeing where it gets me over the long term. I'm only 22, maybe if I do that for 20 years, perhaps I'll become semi-expert at something if I stick at it for long enough, right? My temperament actually is orientating me towards mastery anyway, so I think I've got a good shot. Not becoming some like global superstar, but just maybe like a local, oh, that guy, nice biceps, bro, or nice lecture you did. That's maybe my ambition if I really gonna put an ambition onto it. But again, I'm aware that is just like an illusion, and it doesn't really matter whether that happens or not. What matters is the process, the effort that goes in along the journey. Right now, I still want to bulk up to like sort of 95 kg. I noticed I didn't talk about the gym. Been doing the gym, fantastic, for the past 3 months or so, because I got over I had these like chronic pain issues, which was essentially me, my psychology, telling myself that I had pain where I really didn't, but there was no structural damage when I thought there was, and that lasted for about 2 years. So I took almost 2 years off the gym, and I was boxing a little bit in between as well because I didn't know what was going on with me. So that was like a whole like mental health chapter of 2 years, which I haven't mentioned publicly on YouTube, but I'm fine now and I'm doing good, and I Recently health-wise, I had to go to the dentist and like get 2 fillings, which sucked. Korean dentists are great. They're expensive, cost by 20만 원, and that's sort of like the health update. So yeah, gym, gonna carry on with bodybuilding going forward, and maintaining my Korean. Again, that's just we talked about the plans for that, and just really dialing in on this lifelong practice of reading, meditating, lifting, living life, being conscious, being present, and just doing a little bit more of that. I think that's what. Reading, just to tap into that real quick. Reading the same books over and over again is awesome. I noticed that a lot of the great thinkers of the past, even people like Nietzsche, only read a select canon of like 12 or 20 books, just a small selection of books over and over again, and that's how they gain their wisdom. And I think there's a modern incentive to read like 500 books and be the guy who's super smart, who's read all the books. But actually, if you do not have the foundations in core texts, I think that sets one up to struggle later on, because they don't know how to, they've lacked the process of learning how to learn. You do not know how to formulate ideas because you've just read a book, tried to memorize it, forgotten it, read another book, and you don't actually consolidate your learning. Whereas I feel like this new approach that I'm doing right now, rereading a bunch of books in Korean and English, has really dialed in certain concepts, which has, I won't say fully allowed me to fully embody it, but I've been able to embrace it a lot more in my life and see these patterns. And even when I do these talks and the videos, I feel like I'm more fluid, or I have something to draw from. Whereas I suppose you could do that with reading a lot of books in a shallow manner, but I don't know. I just prefer to do the repeat reading thing, and it's given me good results so far. So hopefully I carry on enjoying the process going forward in the long term, and it pays off. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I'll figure that out as I change. Closing. It's been about an hour. I think I've discussed like almost everything I wanted to discuss, and I've just gone through the points. But just closing on 4 points that sort of summarize this whole talk and this whole video is number 1 was the present moment is everything. So right now I'm recording this video and I just feel, I was gonna say I feel alive, but I feel mildly aware because I'm a little bit sleep deprived. But yes, present moment is everything. I've talked about that before. If you're not fully there for it in life, where are you? You could be the sum of all your desires, but if you just let it pass you by, just let time pass you by, then death will catch up with you, and that'll be that. Whereas if you are not what you amount to, but maybe you accept that you're already fully whole, or even if you don't, but you're fully there, like you're really there when you brush your teeth or something happens, is that not like the ultimate equalizer? Like if you're a disabled homeless man in Nigeria, or you're Jeff Bezos, right? But if you're the disabled guy who's sort of semi-suffering, but you're really there for it, like there's a moment in your life where maybe someone buys you a meal or something small like that, and you're really there for it. But if you're Jeff Bezos and you're just so caught up being lost in thought, suffocating in pleasures, and you're just never really there for it, I don't really know. I don't want to weigh up and say he's got a better life, but it does make, it feels sort of apparent to me that the guy who was aware got it right. It just feels that way to me. So that's present moment is everything. The second point, or on the conclusion, was that you gotta let awakening unfold naturally. Like I said earlier, you can't fight ego. You can't get rid of your ego because there's no you to get rid of it. So you just gotta observe it. Just let it float up, let it pop up into the space when it does. Just watch it go, the ego is there now. I'm thinking. I'm video recording is happening and there's just this space that I'm in. That seems to be the right path, as opposed to trying to run away from the ego or actively try to destroy it. I don't think any of those get you anywhere. Again, I'm not a master. I don't think enlightenment is anything separate from the present moment. So just try and observe that the best you can. My computer is turned off, so I'll just go a cappella. And acceptance. So just, accept what's here. Accept what you can't control. Move on. And stay present. Stay conscious throughout the whole thing. That's all I can really say. I hope that, there was something to be learned here, or not, or entertained by. And I really enjoyed the time that I spent here in this hour or so. So thank you for listening to me talk. I love living in a way that allows me to do this. I'm just a free citizen of the world here in Korea, able to speak my mind. That's just a fantastic opportunity. And I wish everyone who watches this happiness. I wish that if there's any suffering in your life, that it gets alleviated, and that we can all be conscious and generally good people together. And if you have anything to say, well, let me know. You can always tell me that, but otherwise, I hope my words today resonate with you. So just stay conscious, have a good one, and have a good evening. Peace. Namaste.